India and China are resetting relations after a fairly long gap filled with tensions at borders. Geopolitics is rapidly changing. Unfair Trump tariffs are forcing India to diversify and look for more options. Can China be alternate is a big question. Can India trust China? Can two Asian giants normalize relations? To answer these questions, we today speak with specialist on China, Professor Srikanth Kondapalli.
Today we are covering a very important topic of China. After the SCO meeting, we saw some visuals and we saw some bonhomie between Xi Jinping, our Prime Minister, and Russia. And with the changing geopolitics, we are seeing a shift, apparent shift in policies. Can we trust China is a big question, sir.
All this put together, it is bad news for India in terms of the tariffs and H-1B visas. So there is a rethinking in India, and the photo op between President Putin, President Xi Jinping, and Prime Minister Modi was very important, and that did rattle the US on that issue. And we have now a kind of two-track that is happening. One is the heavy blowback on the tariffs. Second is defense-related cooperation that is still intact between US and India. So we see these two tracks happening. Economically, very difficult times for India. On the other hand, we have the defense-related. You remember the NASA and ISRO had a joint launch of the space program, and so this indicates we are in a rough water, and that means India has to open up. India has the free trade area with UK in advanced negotiations with the European Union and also with the UAE
Yes.
and Israel. We also have trade talks with Australia, and
now Qatar, I am hearing. Qatar.
Prime Minister went to Japan and he secured the Shinkansen high-speed railway as well as $65 billion. Soon after the SCO meeting, there was Singapore Prime Minister who came to India, and we also signed several agreements in regard to semiconductors in other modernization efforts. So India is trying hard to maintain that 7.8% growth rate that we saw earlier this year. And if these efforts are made and we diversify trade, we exchange in local currencies these trade issues, and we maintain energy security by importing from Russia, we should be able to scrape through with a higher growth rate this year. So that is the main concern for the Indian government. In this background, we need to stabilize borders with China. We need to also think about the stabilization with Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. We already did with Muizu from Maldives. The India Out campaign has now been slightly down with the Prime Minister's visit to Malé. So in other words, strategically, the situation needs to be slowed down because of the tariffs and H-1B visa related problems here.
But sir, my question is, can we trust China? Because we don't have a very good relationship with them, and it has been a very difficult and complicated one, especially the skirmishes which happened and the kind of, we have seen a lot of tension between the two countries in the last few years. So can we trust them? And secondly, China's collaboration and relationship with Pakistan. And as soon as, in fact, during Sindoor, it is alleged that China has helped Pakistan with satellite imageries and all that. So how can we trust them?
Yeah, Dr. Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister, mentioned in the parliamentary debate, we should trust China, but we should verify by intelligence, by information, by cross-border things, and see whether they are really, what they are talking is in sync with their actions. So that is necessary. And in the last 1 year, since October 21st, when we had the disengagement, patrolling and grazing on the border, We have not had de-escalation and de-induction. So on the question of trust, we are circumspect on the Chinese actions on the border. So we have not done the full normalization on the border. Number one. Number two, whenever we have had exchanges with China, like for instance, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, went to China in December for the 23rd Special Representative meeting. And also Mr. Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, and then the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh's visit in June this year, followed by Dr. Jaishankar's visit. So whenever we saw these visits, it was followed by the balancing act by China. For instance, in December, the Chinese announced after Mr. Ajit Doval's visit, they announced the bifurcation of Aksai Chin, creating two new counties, which basically means that in future they will put up troops in Aksai Chin in a large number. So that is balancing by China, even though we are trying to normalize. Second, when Mr. Vikram Misri went in March this year, they announced a few other things like this, but most concretely after Dr. Jaishankar's visit, they announced the dam construction on opposite to Arunachal Pradesh. It's a $169 billion project, the largest. And we have concerns because last year there was an earthquake in Shigatse of nearly 7.9 on Richter scale.
Okay.
So the dam would have huge consequences for the lower riparian states like India and Bangladesh and Southeast Asia. But China is not listening to us, which means on your question on trust, the Chinese are not really helping us on these issues of trust building. The third is the most important one, as you mentioned, the India-Pakistan conflict. On April 22nd, when the Pahalgam incident took place, one of the terrorists was carrying a Huawei phone with Chinese satellite connection, and he was messaging back to Pakistan after the Pahalgam attacks. So there is the Chinese role here in terms of the.
No, this is a very big thing which you are talking. Is it verified?
It is verified. One of our officers is in possession of this. The Indian government is in possession of this device. Second most important thing is that the Chinese have supplied satellite imageries of Pahalgam before the attack. 129 slides have been given to the Pakistanis through the GPS locations, etc. So this is another incident where the Chinese were helping the Pakistani side despite the counter-terrorism pledge with the Indians, also with the international community in the SCO. Third is that in the 1267 Committee of the United Nations Security Council, Li Changchie, the Chinese ambassador, and the Pakistani ambassador, they deleted the name of the resistance front, which took responsibility for the Pahalgam attacks initially twice, but a third time they declined to take responsibility. The fact that they took responsibility the first two times indicates to their role, and their name has been removed, and BLA, the Baluch Liberation Army, and the Majid Brigade name has been mentioned. However, after Mr. Rajnath Singh's visit and his declining to sign the joint statement related to counter-terrorism, and also Dr. Jaishankar's argument with the Chinese on counter-terrorism related matters, finally in the Tianjin Declaration, Pahalgam was mentioned. However, this was watered down with the mention of the Zafar Express and others. It suggests then that the Chinese were under pressure from Russia to include the Pahalgam terror attacks, but they were watered down with the Pakistani pressure. So this indicates that India cannot trust China on the terrorism issue. And secondly, China had supported Pakistan in the May 2020 Operation Sindoor related, because China provided again information to the Pakistani Air Force, as the Deputy Army Chief mentioned, Mr. Rahul Singh, General Rahul Singh. Also, the Chinese have given the equipment like GF-17, J-10 Wing-Lung drones, HQ-9 surface-to-air missile batteries. This is very offensive in nature, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, on after the Pahalgam attacks, he said that there should be a impartial inquiry into the Pahalgam attacks, forgetting for a moment that China never accepted any investigation into the Xinjiang Uyghur insurgency related incidents, or during COVID-19 pandemic, they did not allow the WHO delegation to go and visit the blood samples of the pandemic. So it is quite strange that China now takes up the fair investigation. To put it in a context, after the Pathankot incident, the Indian side had invited the Pakistani side to join the investigation. But however, soon after the investigation, the Pakistani side raised the issue of Indian agencies' alleged involvement in these incidents. So for India, it is not the time for investigation, it is time for action. We have had so many terror incidents in India traced to cross-border terrorism, and hence the Indian action related to Operation Sindoor. In all this, it appeared China sided with Pakistan substantially, both in terms of arms, in terms of information. There is a brigadier level rank officer of Pakistan who is placed in Chengdu, the Western Theatre Command, who was coordinating between the command control structures of China and Rawalpindi. So this suggests that we need to verify, then trust with China.
So China continues to remain an unreliable partner. Don't go by the photo op. That's what you're mentioning.
Exactly. The photo op is mainly meant for the tariff-related issue and multipolarity related. But when it comes to the bilateral, as Prime Minister Modi, in his discussion with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, in the 50-minute meeting, he said there should be no double standards on terrorism. He also mentioned about the connectivity issues that should not ignore the sovereignty claims. For instance, the CPEC projects that China is conducting in Pakistan, that should not ignore the sovereignty claims of India, because the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir signed the Instrument of Accession with Indian Union, which is a legal document, and neither the Pakistani constitution nor the Chinese constitution mentions about Kashmir land as theirs.
So China is also trying to, in the wake of what is happening with Mr. Trump and global scenario, China is also trying to position itself as a replacement to America. We have seen the new visa regime, which is similar to H-1B, if I can say that. And they are also giving some kind of overtures on trade, what we are seeing. So do you think China can ever be a replacement to US, because it's not a democracy one? Second, they have their own style of business. A lot of unfair practices are reported several times. So do you see it as a replacement by any means for India?
Well, China is trying to be an alternative to the US-led world order, but it would be pretty hard for them to actually take that seat. In 1945, when we have had the new world order, the United Nations system, the Bretton Woods system, the alliances system, NATO versus Warsaw Pact, or the other security-related issues. Today, China wants to have an alternative like the AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, New Development Bank of the BRICS, the multipolarity debate in SEO. the alternative financing by these institutions in the Belt and Road Initiative. It has been positioning BRI as some kind of a alternative to the US.
But is it capable of doing that?
It would be hard to think of that because the US came with a liberal world order. The Chinese are coming with a Middle Kingdom world order. In a Middle Kingdom world order, it is all based on hierarchy. It is based on tributes to the Middle Kingdom. And most important, it is hierarchical rather than equal. So it would be pretty hard for countries like India to accept this Middle Kingdom based world order. And today, the Chinese are saying community of shared destiny as the alternative, but they did not define what exactly are the building blocks of this community of shared destiny. They say partnerships, but even partnerships, it would be hard for India to digest this because there is nothing written, no agreements between the two sides, A and B, in formulating such an order. So for India, this is pretty hard to because there is nothing on table to say China stands by this. There is nothing concrete in hand. So it is quite unpredictable. And since it is based on hierarchy, India as an emerging country, India as a democratic country, India also has aspirations to be among the Committee of Nations as a respectable entity. And hence, for India, this is gray zone what what China is trying to do. So, in other words, India will be very cautious on the Chinese approach. And besides that, India has actually territorial dispute with China that is not resolved. India also has a neighbor, two neighbors who have nuclear weapons, and India is concerned about those issues. Then India also is concerned about China's role in Indian Ocean region and in relation to the global commons like space, cyber. There are a number of cyber attacks on India. These attacks were traced to China. So the list is long on why India cannot join the Chinese bandwagon so quickly.
Sir, also Pakistan is, as you said, is getting closer to US. In that scheme of things, do you see China drifting away from Pakistan?
Field Marshal Munir visited China a few weeks ago, and the Chinese concern is the CPEC, security, prosperity, etc. So I do not think that the Chinese are moving away from Pakistan, although there are some signals like Bagram base that Americans want to acquire with the Pakistani assistance. Secondly, there is also the American acquiring of bases in Pakistan to counter China. Thirdly, a new patch-up between Israel and Pakistan to counter Iran nuclear issue. If these are real, if these are what they have decided, then there is a chance for China moving away from Pakistan, given the Pakistani proclivity to move towards the United States. But all these are just in about a year or so, we will get to know because by November 2026, there will be midterm elections and the maneuverability for president.
So you see it as a temporary thing right now, interim.
As of now, we do not have enough evidence to show that Pakistan is moving too close to the United States and away from China. China had given Pakistan $52 billion in the CPEC. United States gave Pakistan $24 billion so far in counterterrorism measures and others. So the weight of China is more in Pakistan than compared with
and more infrastructure involvement there.
More physical infrastructure involved, and there are 36,000 Chinese security guards in Pakistan. These are basically People's Armed Police Force. I don't think these many Americans are living in Pakistan.
So you see a difficult time ahead, the way China is modernizing its weapon systems, the way it's getting more and more, aggressive with its neighbors. Do you see any conflict building up again?
Between China and India?
China and India.
At the moment, with the drive towards normalization on the border, that is disengagement, patrolling and grazing, if not de-escalation and de-induction, there is a path that has been laid down since October 21st. We have to see whether this will be fulfilled. When Foreign Minister Wang Yi came, we had three new institutions coming up, an expert group, a working group, a border management group, and they used the word delimitation of the boundary. We don't know if there is any real progress on the boundary, but generally a boundary dispute is resolved step by step. First is defining the line of actual control, second is delimitation, third is demarcation,
Right.
and the fourth is the parliamentary resolution regard to the resolution of the dispute. So the fact that they used the second term, delimitation, in the Wang Yi Ajit Doval joint statement, the 10-point consensus after the July 17th, 18th meeting, it indicates some progress on the border. So we should see the full flow of the border related normalization.
But you are seeing these steps like resumption of air connectivity between the two countries. Do you see it as a step in a positive direction, or do you think it's also a temporary thing just to maybe deal with tariff issues with US?
We do not know because the decision was taken several months ago, but it has not been implemented yet.
I think Indigo has announced yesterday.
October, we will see, October end, we will see some direct flights. But in any case, this was the pandemic related response by China, not by India. They blocked all these aircraft. So they are now moving in that direction. But anyway, this is basically tourism and others. So this is a small step in that.
Sir, also, do you think a lot will depend on China-America relationship, how it moves? Because as if now, see, they have put more penalty on us than China. But the fact is, China is also buying Russian oil, but they were not penalized. So is there a kind of a patch-up efforts going on between China and America? And if that happens, where do we stand?
This is a major concern because previously, for the past 20 years or so, since the 123 agreement, we have seen that there is India became a player in the US-China relations. But today, China is becoming a player in the US-India relations. So this is a new feature that has come about. On the other hand, the whole issue of tariffs is because of China. Mexico, Canada were also marginal actors. India is a marginal actor. The total trade deficit between US and China is $6.9 trillion in favor of China. The total trade deficit between India and US last 20 years is $270 billion. Not really much.
A fraction of that.
Compared to nearly $7 trillion trade deficit. So if Trump's ire is on the trade surpluses, it should actually be directed on China, not on India. India is a sideshow for all this, and probably it got activated due to personal egoistic reasons on Nobel Prize or
ceasefire things.
So we were in a very strange situation. If it is about trade deficits, China had the largest trade surplus with the United States at nearly $6.9 trillion. So that doesn't seem to be the only issue here. It is also Russia.
But sir, can US-China relations ever be, flourishing? Because principally they both are opposing parties, and both are claiming for the world, place in the world politics.
In October 2017, the Chinese Communist Party, in its National Congress, 19 party Congress, decided that they want to they want to occupy the center stage, which is now occupied by the United States. So basically, they want to replace the United States. This is the rub between US and China. This is the structural problem between China and the US. I do not think the tariff issue or other issues are the main. It is about China challenging the United States as global hegemon. That has actually led to all of these issues. I think this is going to be more long term rather than short term. Even if there is a trade agreement, it is most likely that the US China, it is a bipartisan consensus within the United States on China as a strategic competitor. So I guess we have to really wait for this to.
Isn't it, in the end, I will say, isn't it ironic that West and US always placed India as a counterweight to China in the Asia Pacific, in the Pacific zone? But now it's happening that they are dealing with China and penalizing India.
I think this is a temporary phase. This is more related to ego problems rather than concrete policy options. I believe in about a few months we will have a very clear vision, and more likely that the India will bounce back in the U.S. strategic calculus. Um, Several Americans have written recently, the former Biden administration officials, that losing India would be a problematic for the long-term U.S. policy. So I would believe that this is a knee-jerk reaction from the Trump administration to alienate India by saying zero growth story or other comments. Brahmins are making profits,
Dead economy.
dead economy. So these, I think, these are out of sheer frustration. I believe there will be U.S. India normalization.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.